So, a very, very warm welcome, Lama Zangmo. It's such a privilege and pleasure to have you join us for this World Kindness Day 2021. So let me start by just briefly introducing you as the current director and resident teacher at Kaju Samizong London, which is a branch of Kaju Samizong Sami Ling in Scotland, and Tibetan monastery, and that you first became a Buddhist in 1977, and you've been based in London as director and teacher since 1998, I believe. It's a great privilege to have you with us, and I wonder if I could, something else, that you're originally from Denmark, so that people will understand where your accent is from. So, yes, it's our great privilege to have you with us, and it would be lovely if you could talk about our innate nature and the innate nature of kindness that we have as humans, and then the blocks that we feel to finding that for ourselves and for others. Is that a good place to start?
That's a good place to start. Thank you, Barbara. And yes, it's thank you for inviting me for this event. So first of all, as a Buddhist nun, of course, I will be speaking from the Buddhist point of view, because that is where I come from. You know, it may not be the view of everyone, and it may not be the approach of everyone, but as we say, there are many paths up the mountain. They all lead to the top, right? We all have many approaches, but we all reach the top eventually. So the Buddhist approach, certainly loving kindness and compassion is at the essence. We say that this is who we really are. Innately good. We are innately good, all of us, even the worst of us. We are innately good. We have this potential. All of us have a potential for improvement. All of us have a potential, certainly, for change. And that change can be in whatever direction we want to take it. So the Buddhist path is about bringing out that potential, like a seed that was there all along. A seed that maybe had been buried in the ground for eons and eons, and the right conditions didn't come about. We all know that for a seed to grow, it has to have sunshine, you know, it has to have water, can't be too moist, not too dry, not too cold, not too hot. It has to have all the right conditions for that seed to grow and to flower and to come to fruition. So you could say we're a little bit like that. We have this innate potential, but it's sort of encrusted, isn't it? A lot of the time, that goodness doesn't always show its face completely. It's encrusted in mud and layers of dirt and silt and whatever else we find, when it's been sitting for many hundreds of years on the ground. So we don't always see that in each other. We certainly don't always see it in ourselves. It's quite hard to spot. It is compared a little bit, the work we do on bringing that out. It's like initially you need to have some strong tools to chip off all that crust. And then maybe gradually the tools can be a little bit softer, a little bit more gentle as we start to come closer to that core. But the right conditions are very important. We all need to train, we all need to learn. We're not perfect from the start, but we do have that innate potential for perfection. And you could say that the Buddhist path the whole path is about bringing out that perfection, becoming Buddha. We call this the Buddha nature. And what that essentially is kindness, loving kindness and compassion. If you hear His Holiness Dalai Lama speaking, he says, my religion is kindness. What a beautiful way to say it, isn't it? We don't need religious dogma. We don't need religious infighting or outfighting, whatever we call it, all these religious sort of fundamentalism that one can find in any dogma. We just need kindness for the world to become a better place. But so we need to understand how to bring out that kindness. And that's where we get stuck sometimes. We get a little bit confused. And also, I think we get confused about what is kindness? How do we apply kindness in day-to-day life, in life situations, which are not straightforward and simple? They're often multifaceted and very complicated. We think we are doing something good. We think we are being kind. And then actually it turns out that we made things worse if we are not skillful. So for that reason, we say, first of all, we need to work on ourselves. It's really important that we sort of get ourselves sorted out. If we haven't sorted ourselves out, how can we really genuinely be a benefit to others? And that in the Buddhist teachings is compared to a blind man leading the blind. If we are confused, if we are unclear about what is right and what is wrong in terms of actions, thinking, speech, then we can mislead others. So we need to understand what are the causes of happiness, because also when we look at it, essentially all of us, we want the same thing. We want to get to the top of that mountain. And what that top of the mountain represents is we want to be happy. We're looking for happiness. All of us want to be happy. Simple as that. There's no one who doesn't want to be happy. But we go about it in all these different ways. So many different approaches. And a lot of, I would say, confusion about, what causes happiness. So to me, almost happiness and kindness is, what do you call it when they're like the same thing?
Is it synonymous?
Synonymous, yes, I think that was it. Synonymous. I think kindness and happiness are synonymous in one sense, because with kindness, it means that we're thinking of others. Well, but I know you want to talk about self-kindness. So by thinking of others, actually, it is the kindest thing we can do to ourselves. Thinking more about others is like the recipe for happiness and a true kindness to ourselves. But of course, there are many, many different levels of kindness. And there are certain things that we can say, well, this is definitely kind to myself. This is a way of being kind to myself. So it depends on what level you're looking at it. And I think the key thing is we need to understand what causes us pain and suffering and confusion, and what causes us happiness and peace of mind, and allows this kindness to extend itself both to ourselves and to others. Like the obstacles, we need to know, what are the obstacles? What is it, like you said, that blocks me from extending my kindness both to myself and to others? And that is where in Buddhism we talk a lot about what you would say, like the negative emotions. The negative emotions, that they are essentially what block us from, stop. That's a crust we have to chip off that has been sitting there for so long, and the sprout can't really get through. The sprout is weak. The sprout is just a tiny little green thing, but this crust above has been laying there for hundreds and thousands of years, and is so hard, like cement now. So, it's not so easy to break through. So negative emotions, they are very spontaneous for us, whereas kindness and compassion is not so spontaneous. We become angry much quicker than we extend kindness. But so I don't know if I'm really following your way of thinking, but in terms of self-compassion, self-compassion or self-kindness, then I would say that the kindest thing we can do to ourselves is to tame our own mind, to tame those negative emotions, to free ourselves from negative emotions, to transform those negative emotions into all the positive qualities, to develop, instead of anger, we develop patience. Instead of attachment and clinging, we develop generosity. Instead of jealousy, we develop rejoicing. Instead of ignorance, we develop understanding, intelligence, wisdom. So one thing that is really important in connection and conjunction with loving kindness is intelligence, or maybe sounds better to say wisdom, because we're all intelligent enough, but we're not always very wise.
Yeah, and I'm imagining people listening. I mean, that's such a lovely, clear imagery and things. But this big, thick crust, and the challenge of actually coming home to this, to these innate qualities of kindness. So some of the people who are watching may have meditation practices, but many will not be on that particular route. So I wonder, to give people some encouragement about the sort of ways that we can reach this kindness, both for ourselves and to spread out into the world and for the environment. I wonder how you might encourage people that don't necessarily have a meditation practice. What ideas you may share?
I think it's very important in terms of self-kindness is to be patient with ourselves. Patience is hugely important. Patience in itself is a kindness, because we have to recognize that we will mess up. We will make mistakes. We will sort of, again and again, maybe repeatedly make the same mistakes. But we have to recognize that each moment we have another chance. We have to try again and again and again. And we need to develop confidence in our own ability, confidence in our own potential. We all have this potential. We all have kindness. It's just a matter of nurturing it, but we do need to nurture it. It's not something that's going to happen just by itself. I think whether people have a meditation practice or not, I do believe that we need some method, some training, because it's like saying that field that has that hidden seed, right? On top of that hidden seed, there's concrete and silt and stuff, but there's also loads of thistles and nettles and all sorts of weeds there, and they grow very easily. But the flowers and all the rest doesn't grow so easily. So I think we do need some method, somewhere we can look for guidance, because otherwise, if we just leave that garden to itself, the weeds will take over. It's like our mind is like that. So whether people have a meditation practice or not, they need some way that speaks to them and that connects with them, that they feel they can relate to like mindfulness, to access that inner potential and confidence.
As you're speaking, what's coming to me is the sense of having a community around you as well. And of course, that's a very important concept in Buddhism. But just for people, it's this little seed which has got all this crust to come through. And it's very hard, I think, to do that without support. I wonder if you could just comment on what you feel about that.
I think that's totally true. It's like anything we try to do. We want to change in a certain direction. That's essentially what this is. We're wanting to change by becoming kinder and more positive and better human beings, so we can be a benefit to ourselves and to others. So that means that you wouldn't want to surround yourself with people who think, well, it's great to go out and let's go and steal some bicycles or whatever. Let's go and do all the bad things, you know. It's like you want to if you want to develop a positive habit, you should surround yourself by people who have a similar way of thinking and goal, and not by people who are trying to do the opposite, because it's quite logical, isn't it? Otherwise we're like a salmon swimming upriver. If you want to give up alcohol and drinking, you don't want to have all your friends inviting you out to the pub. If you want to give up drugs, you don't want to have all your friends, you know, giving you drugs. So in the same way, if we want to develop certain positive mental mind states and habits, it's very helpful to have a community of people around who can encourage you and who are trying the same, because there's strength in that.
Thanks very much. And just as it's so lovely to share this time, and just as we're bringing this to an end, just any final comments, Lama Zangmo, about this importance of self-kindness in terms of kindness in the world?
Yes, I mean, I think we definitely need more kindness. I think we need to understand better, what does kindness mean. I think often in the world, in the sort of what we call normal world, kindness is equated to a form of attachment. In Buddhism, actually, we say that the misunderstood kindness takes the form of attachment or clinging or grasping. It's called the far enemy. Or near enemy, sorry. The far enemy is the opposite, and near enemy is what it looks like. It looks like kindness. So meaning that in relationships, for example, love, kindness, caring for others, there's often a lot of expectation. It is not unconditional. There's a lot of expectation involved of something in return. And it's a kind of mixed bag, really, when we normally engage. We have a lot of hidden agendas. I'm not sure if this is true for you. I think maybe not, but of course the pure sense. Yes. I think the pure sense of kindness is free from that, but I think often our way of engaging with kindness is mixed. And so in our minds, I think we need to be clear about what is kindness, and to watch ourselves that there is no hidden agendas.
Thank you so much. And of course, we're spending our World Kindness Day just considering that question: what is kindness, what's self-kindness, and how we can do it. And we really thank you for your very helpful contribution, Lama Zangmo.
My pleasure, and I hope it goes well. Yeah.
And a very warm thank you from me as well, Lama Zangmo. It's just been wonderful to sit and listen. I know that many people that have listened to you for World Kindness Day will probably say, no, don't stop. So I apologize on their behalf, on our behalf as well, that we can't speak any longer, but we really do appreciate your sharing